Breaking news, a bomb scare forces the evacuation of 3 USC buildings, including Wallace Annenberg Hall.
Concerned faculty and the Coalition of Students Against Sexual Assault unite. Find out what they're demanding from the administration. We're live on the Row.
And students at colleges across the country take a stand on a range of issues, hoping to bring about change.
See It Live starts now. We begin with breaking news. Hundreds of students were forced to evacuate 3 USC buildings late this afternoon. Good evening. I'm Ayanna Martinez.
And I'm Sofia Gonzalez. A Trojan alert notified the community to stay away from Grace Ford Salvatore Hall, Sample Hall, and Wallace Annenberg Hall. The alert went out about 4:30 this afternoon for all 3 buildings to be evacuated. Students, staff, faculty, and administrators moved to the area outside Heritage Hall and the other Annenberg building. News helicopters from local TV stations were buzzing over the scene, but it was all just a scare, and everyone was allowed to return after about 30 minutes. MIT and NYU reportedly received similar threats and were also evacuated. Several bomb threats were also made to a few Ivy League schools this past weekend. Now to our other big story tonight, a protest calling on the USC administration to make major changes when it comes to its handling of sexual assault cases. Reporter Bianca Bueno is live on the Row with more on today's protest.
That's right, I'm here at USC's Greek Row, where students and faculty finished a protest today to save our students, or as they call it, SOS. The goal of the protest was to stand together and hold USC accountable for sexual assault in the community. The protest was organized by student groups USC Flow and USC Wise. It began at 3 p.m. today outside of Bovard Auditorium. The group then peacefully marched to Greek Row. Protesters passed out pins, flyers, and held an open mic for anyone who wanted to voice their rage.
I experienced sexual assault on our campus freshman year, and I had absolutely no idea where to go or what resources we had or where even to report and what that reporting process would look like. I was lost and very alone, and I know that I'm not alone in this feeling, and that so many other students have experienced the exact same thing.
The protest was advertised on social media and reached near 200 likes. DPS actually used this figure to determine how many people would be attending the event. A lot did not show up, but that didn't mean that their voices were heard any less. I'm Bianca Bueno for Annenberg Media. Now back to the studio.
Among the protesters today were a member of USC Flow and the executive director of WISE. Both say it's time to hold USC administrators accountable.
So that involves providing rape kits on campus, creating a rape crisis center, creating trauma-informed resources.
It's incredibly insulting to the literal thousands of survivors on this campus to not even be willing to hear their concerns. So we're protesting outside of Carol Fold's office today. So far, the university has not made any meaningful actions on anything we've been asking for over the past few weeks.
Students and faculty are demanding change and support for survivors. They're also calling for the expulsion of all students who have committed or enabled sexual violence. A group called Concerned Faculty was also at today's protest. Many protesters are frustrated about the lack of transparency by the administration. Reporter Tatum Larsen talked with faculty who say they're embarrassed to be a part of USC.
USC Concerned Faculty joined the protest in support of students.
Calling SOS. Calling SOS.
Concerned Faculty was created when the admissions scandal was revealed, but their concern has grown amid the rise of sexual assault cases. Many of these professors were appalled by the case of George Tyndall, the former USC gynecologist charged with assaulting students. Professor Carol Wise says that faculty have been asking for increased support and protection for students for years.
A number of media people have asked us, oh, well, why now? Why this big explosion now? And why now? Because we just paid $1.1 billion out. The university paid it out to victims of sexual violence and sexual assault in our own student health center. We have no rape kits. We have very sloppy procedures. And it's really time for USC, President Full, and the provost to get really on top of this.
Concerned faculty is expressing their worry for current and future students if the university does not act now. Professor Jerry Loeb is expressing his frustration at the university's actions thus far.
In a word, embarrassing. 2 years now. I came here because it was an institution that was rising rather rapidly and had aspirations and intentions that were everything I believed in as an academic. And it is truly sad to see what's happened in the last 10 years. It's embarrassing because it violates our principles. It disappoints our students, in some cases physically endangering them.
Present faculty said they knew that this would not be the last time they would meet in support of students during the ongoing Sigma Nu case and beyond. For Annenberg Media, I'm Tatum Larsen.
Departments of public safety officers were present at today's protest, and more officers placed in standby if necessary.
We want people to be able to express themselves, be tolerant of others' views, and really exercise their right to be able to express their opinion, regardless of what it is. That this is part of a college campus life, that it is something that USC and DPS understands is a right of students, faculty, or staff, and we expect it will be a peaceful demonstration.
The USC Office of Provost emailed students this afternoon about a newly established working group of infraternity council culture, prevention, and accountability. The group will be making recommendations regarding IFC social activity suspension, review IFC recognition, education and prevention strategies, and revisit accountability and sexual assault on campus.
2 members of historically Black Greek organizations at USC are speaking out about recent sexual assault allegations on Frat Row. They say their collective, the National Pan-Hellenic Council, or the Divine Nine, was founded on community service in part, and takes misconduct allegations extremely seriously.
PhD organizations take cases like these very, very seriously, and I don't think there's that same type of accountability for Greek life on the row.
And we've been making this impact, this community impact for nationwide, worldwide impact for over a century, and something that wasn't for us, like in the Greek row, like their incident should not affect us.
According to USC Student Affairs Department, 8 of the 9 historically Black fraternities and sororities are represented on campus. The Divine Nine was created for people of color to have a space to push academic success while serving the community.
On the East Coast, students at Johns Hopkins have been protesting their university's response to reports of intentional drugging.
Feminists unite! Take back the night!
The most recent incident happened over Halloween weekend at the Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity. Students learned about it through an email which lists tips on how they can avoid becoming the victim of a drugging incident. One sophomore says that language places responsibility on victims. She organized one of the protests at JHU's campus.
I could take all those precautions and still, get drugged. So it's just like, it was very poor wording on their part. And the fact that that was their first response to the situation kind of says a lot about how admin treats these things.
Sophomore Hardy Williams was also at the protest. He says the university's response to prior allegations of sexual assault usually don't go beyond social probation.
Very often these perpetrators are left off the hook, remain anonymous, and very often are left to commit assaults again. So we definitely need to make sure that whatever policies that we're enacting against sexual assault in terms of punitive actions are actually being carried out.
The JHU Sigma Phi Epsilon chapter is barred from holding events while the incident is under investigation. Activist groups at Illinois Northwestern University are urging school officials to invest in life-saving institutions. On Sunday, a student coalition gave a list of demands to the school's board of trustees, calling on them to build better systems of accountability and equity. 2 student activists who requested anonymity shared their thoughts on the university's response.
I think it's really important in protests to actually disrupt something. A football game where it causes a spectacle, but doesn't harm anybody is, in my opinion, a perfect place to do a protest.
Northwestern University has not responded to our demands in over 500 days. We've seen how the police on our campus brutalize, harm, misidentify, and cause trauma to students. In the bleachers, you could hear students cheering as the Iowa fans were booing. Students are in complete support. Northwestern's lack of action means that now is the time to act. We can't wait to act.
A call to action from students from New Jersey's Rowan University after a recent student death by suicide, the fourth in 4 years. Students called the situation a mental health crisis and want university officials to commit additional funding and mental health services.
It's a problem. Like, students are taking their lives and they feel as if that's the only choice, and that needs to be addressed.
We have the money, and we are one of the fastest growing public research universities in the whole country. I think that we should set an example in terms of mental health care for others.
We spoke with one organizer to learn more about why Rowan students are raising their voices to demand better mental health services.
The mental health crisis on our campus is becoming very much prevalent once again since 2018, when there was a lot of issues. The mental health issue, if we don't fix it, is going to become a problem within the next generation. We got to be prepared to have everything on the campus for future students to come along, and even current students right now.
Many college students are struggling with mental health issues. According to Harvard Political Review, 17% feel too depressed to function, 20% feel hopeless, and 64% can't continue to pursue their degree. Tackling mental health at college can be extremely challenging. The primary causes for mental health issues are grades, finances, too much work, genetic predisposition, and trauma.
Protests on college campuses are nothing new. Many social movements, including opposition to the Vietnam War and the free speech movement, fueled student activism. An activist of more than 50 years says student-led protests play an important role.
You're kind of a bellwether for society. You know, if students become mobilized, if they start to petition and protest, that tells the rest of the society that there's an issue here. We've got to pay attention to it. And I think students are among the most effective at helping society understand that there are these issues that need to be addressed.
David Courtwright is one of the speakers at tonight's Visions and Voices series, Waging Peace in Vietnam, which begins at 7:30 p.m. in Wallace Annenberg Hall. This is also an accompanying exhibit of photographs and oral histories from the GI resistance.
2 USC students are working with the Doheny Memorial Library to archive several posters from the recent protests against sexual assault.
Going to the archives, you realize how important it is to kind of preserve history, and I feel like at the protests there was a lot of kind of concern about this being swept under the rug.
By archiving and saving all the conversations that have been happening, that's a really good way to preserve the momentum and keep people aware of what's going on, so that when 4 years down the line everyone that was here right now is gone, we have people that are aware of how campus culture used to be. Hopefully it's changed. If it hasn't, they can keep working to change it.
Recent allegations of sexual assault by fraternity members have sparked massive protests and calls for change. University archivalists at Doheny Memorial Library stress the importance of telling USC's full history.
You know, the real scope of the archives is not to just whitewash the university. It's supposed to be a resource for research, to actually see what is going on, through all the years, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
It's motivating others to see people didn't just stand by and do nothing. They protested, they took action.
If you have a poster that you would like to submit to the archives, you can go to the special collections at the Doheny Memorial Library and fill out an intake form.
Students can feel extra stressed this time of year, especially those affected by the recent sexual assault allegations. We spoke with 2 mindfulness coaches.
This too comes down to the basics of sleep, nutrition, exercise can be really helpful for us And not to say that any of this is a cure-all or a quick fix, but these are things that we can do in the midst of stressors and anxieties.
USC's Department of Physical Education and Mind-Body Health offers courses for students and meditate to relieve tension they might be feeling. If you can't sign up for those courses, the university also has several mindfulness events. Thanks for watching See It Live. From everyone at Annenberg Media, I'm Sofia Gonzalez.
And I'm Ayanna Martinez. You can watch us on the web at uscannenbergmedia.com.